Hello everyone, I'm Jose Cruz, I'm an enterprise architect and welcome to my channel. My channel talks a lot of different subjects. It is required by my role in the companies, and today I'm adding a new one which will be AI agents, so stay tuned. So what is the agenda for this one? First, what are AI agents, types, how they work, why they matter. But my main thing is not to explain to you the theory behind it. There are great videos explain this and books. We'll be just developing a very simple one, which will be a frequently asked question chatbot, which means that we'll have a specific answers that you want to define to our company about hours, returning items, and things like that. And whatever the user writes, we'll be asking to the OpenAI API, say, okay, the user is asking this question, and can you fit in one of these answers? Maybe it's talking about return, so reply with this sentence. Maybe it's talking about the open hours, please reply with this sentence. So we control the output, which is great. We in this way, we are sure that the image of our company, it's not jeopardized, let's say like that. So we will not see an agent answer things that are not related with our company. We want to control the output because it's a frequently asked question. So this will be our first project. I promise there will be other projects more advanced with emails, replying to emails and things like that. Agents asking to other agent things. I think it will be useful, but this one, it's simple, but I promise it will be very, very useful for you because you can adapt it to your needs in a very simple way. So stay tuned. I will explain the theory, then I'll show you the Python code, and then you will see executed. And by the way, the code, it's on GitHub. You can always go there and download it for free. Okay, so what are AI agents? At the end of the day, just a program that perceives its environment. It receives information, can be a shot, can be sound, can be an image, can be a PDF file. If it's an agent running a car, maybe it perceives the temperature, the light outside to take decisions, the road, the image, and so on and so on. And now you want this agent to receive something and make decisions. And now the decision is related with the type of agent that you have, that I will talk about in a moment. It's the brainer. So depending of the type of the agent, you want something to happen. And then what we want to happen is just a reaction. You want to achieve a goal. You want to find the best course to place, or maybe you want to do all of these things while the agent learns. And usually are these four types of agents that you can have on your solution. But at the end of the day, you have a kind of a virtual assistant, not as person. Maybe it's a system in your car. Maybe it's a system that can read your emails. Maybe it's a system that understands that I should give this information to the user, but now it's not the right time. It's very dangerous to think in this way because it's kind of like being a person with personality. But I think we are targeting that with the AI agent. Some examples: Siri, or let's say I think Android has also one. A self-driving car, navigation rules, they are everywhere on the electric cars. Chatbot helping with customer support. I remember that I think maybe I'm mistaken. I'm not mistaken about the subject, but maybe on the percentage. But I think 90% of the emails sent to Amazon, the store, are replied and forwarded by AI agents. They don't need the person to understand what's happening and to give answers, or when it's too complicated or they cannot decide by themselves, they will forward to a specific person to reply it. But the main idea is just to, I would say that it will always be necessary at least a few people for emails that are more complex and need, let's say, business, financial things. But most of the questions that sometimes a person has about the Amazon store, an AI agent can reply immediately and very accurate based on experience. And usually these agents can learn for a previous response and feedback from the users and provide better and better answers in the future. So types of agents, I'll run somehow touch the subject, but let's classify them. So you can have simple reflex agents. They react instantly. They have specific simple rules, like it's too hot, let's give some fresh air. That's one, like thermostats. So the car is almost, let's say, crashing with another one. Let's stop the car immediately. Things like that. Maybe it's not a reflex. Maybe I'm pushing too much here. Maybe it is a learning one or a model one. But simply you want a reaction quite fast. okay, without thinking, or they just react to it. I would say even spam on emails can be a kind of react, because sometimes you have strict rules that are already trained and put it inside the agent. So the agent doesn't think about it, just reacts. Then you have model-based agents. These agents can think about, but in a constrained environment, like for instance, navigation. They understand everything about mapping, and they can receive information about traffic, weather conditions, and accidents, and things like that, and can take the best decisions for you to go from one place to another. But they are constrained. They have this scope, but they are very good on that. So they have this model about navigation. Now you have goal-based agents. Goal-based agents, they are more advanced than model, because sometimes model that they can be really complex agents, but they have a specific target. Let's say we'll be developing one here with just a few lines, so I can show you that it's not only for complicated agents. But imagine that I want someone to write something for my company, and I want the agent to decide, okay, just try to understand what is the goal of this person, and then decide the best response. So this person, okay, from the language, I understand that he's trying to return items. So I will provide this response that it's already predefined. It's not a reflex, because he has to think about what is the goal of that. Of course, in a model, the goal, it's already there. It's driving and probably going from one place to another. You don't have to interpret. It started to interpret the environment, in a sense that to understand what is the goal. The goal is always about the car. That's the difference between them. And then we have learning agents. Learning agents more advanced, because they can do everything that the others do, but they can learn from it and improve themselves. For instance, I remember one time that I was using Chatbot for one task, advanced task, and I really want something that I know that it was possible, but I couldn't find information about it. And I was asking to Chatbot and Grok and all of the others, and they always gave me the same answer. Then I found on the internet a very recent article about it, that it was possible. So I took that text, I provided to the agent, and he learned from it. And I'd say, okay, now adapt your answer to this document that I provide to you, and refactor the response for me. And he gave me a completely correct answer to my problem, now adapted to the thing that he learned in that time. It was not necessary to create a new version of the agent. He learned while running, which is different from the goal-based or model-based or simple one. In these ones, when you improve the model, probably you want to release a new version of the agent. And in learning agents, of course, there are improvements to help them to think differently, the algorithms about learning, but not about the model or the data. You can learn it. Okay, that's, for me, these are the 4 types of agents. Probably you disagree, you know more than them, you can split them. Let's disagree on that. Maybe in future videos I will address other types of agents. But for me, these 4, I think they aggregate everything that you can think about agents. Of course, I'm not talking here about distributed agents. Of course, goal-based agents can, to achieve their goals, sometimes they communicate with other agents, but will be the subject for other lessons that I will provide, and I'll promise you that I will address that. So how do they work? There are just 3 things that you have to understand. They perceive, so they receive input in any form, probably already comfortable with that, text, images, temperature, sensors, whatever. Then they reason about it, and usually for that you need an LLM, meaning the agent, it doesn't have the algorithm there. You can understand about the existence of other agents, that they can take, maybe using cache or some other mechanisms, to reply quickly for something that they already know about it. But most of the time they want to connect to a LLM, provide the input information, receive some reasoning about it, and then answer based on that reasoning. So you always have this perceive, reason, and act. Usually what you want to control is the act. And usually you do that using the prompt. You have to provide a good prompt to the agent to say, okay, this is my constraint. I will allow users to write this. I want to reply when you receive the answer for the LLM that we call here the reason. I want you to reply in this way, with a creative language, with a juvenile language, with a business language. Choose one of these 10. If the subject it's about, let's say, opening hours, answer with this phrase, and things like that. You control the output, and that's what you want to control, because it's the act where the word is already saying it's things happening, and you want to control that. You don't want mistakes on the acting. That's what you want to control. Okay. So if you are more a visual person, so you need LLM, something that is trained with billions of words, and others with videos, images, music. There are a lot of different ones nowadays. They can learn patterns. So there are a lot of different ways to ask about when is something open. Okay. And LLM can understand that. But our AI model doesn't have to be trained for that. We just receive a text and we'll provide to LLM, say, okay, do you think it's talking about return, storing, open hours? What do you think? And the reason will provide us information. Okay, thank you for that information. Now I will act. So you say it's talking about return. So, okay, I will provide this sentence about return or return items. Okay, so you have the input. You have this big brain. You will not be developing this. This is already developed, and you need this help because you can provide a lot of things. Text, images, sound. Imagine that we are talking about the chat here to answer questions of the user, but you can talk. Remember that you can talk, and this talk can be interpreted to text, and then the text will be processed by the LLM, and then you'll provide the output. So why they matter, I think you can understand all the advantages. Automation, handle repetitive tasks. Remember that computers don't get tired. Scalability, you can increment. Imagine that you have a call center with 100 people. You have more clients or customers, and now you have to hire people. In AI agents, probably you just have to put another machine, something that you can do it in just a second. If you're using a cloud, you just say, okay, now the instances are not 2 but 3, and now you have 100 more AI agents on your call center, answering calls or replying to emails or whatever is that you are doing. Personalization, remember that LLM, you can ask him to reply in a certain way, juvenile way, mature way, for young people, for business people, for formal people. You have a lot of different ways to answer. You don't even in any language. You can reply to in English, in French, in German, in Portuguese, whatever. And it's already there. You don't have to train them. It's already there. So we have this big advantage of personalization. The business value, save time, reduce costs, improve customer experience, because you can use learning agents to understand what are the best answers for specific inquiries of the customers, and then you improve the quality of your service. And of course, it's always a learning opportunity for you and for me. When we are building an agent, we learn about the AI fundamentals and practical skills, which I think it is something that you really need to learn. So our Chatbot project, what we want to do with it. So it's a project, it's a simple one, it's a chatbot. It will answer to 3 predefined facts, meaning that it's not predefined, it's not the questions, but the replies. It can reply things about store hours, return policy, and contact support. We'll be using Python, and the API using OpenAI API. So you have to use a key. I have one. It's not expensive. You can just I think with $5 on the OpenAI, you can do a lot of queries. If you are not big ones, for this kind of to learning these things to just a few words, you can see that you can do it a lot with $5. And you can ask things like, when are you open? Can I return an item? How do I get help? And this should be able to fit one of these questions to one of the 3 answers, like store hours, return policy, contact support. You will see the answer are not those words, but other words. So why do we want to do this project? First, to learn it, and to learn about agent framing, which is the most important thing when you do AI agents. Remember that the LLM contains billions of information for a lot of, I don't say thousands, hundreds of thousands of different subjects. But what the most important thing is, but we are only interested on these 3 results. So we should teach the LLM to say, okay, I know that you do a lot of stuff. You can receive any question, but your answer should be framed to only one of these 3. Okay, that will be what we're doing. So what is a frequent asked question chatbot? Okay, it's a chat that you put when people ask things, okay, and it will reply to you about your company. So you should know what answers are you able to provide to customers, okay, but you don't care about how is being asked, in what language is being asked, if they are uploading a file, if they are asking you with voice, if you are providing text. That will be the advantage of using the AI agent with the LLM behind the scene. So what do you need for this project? Python and access to the OpenAI API and understand how to do the agent framing. Okay, I will provide featured videos to explain better how to create good prompts. In this way, it will be a simple one, but I just want for you to understand the importance of this concept of agent framing. So don't forget, install Python. Again, install the OpenAI on your Python, pip install OpenAI, or adapt to your Python, like Pipe3 or PipeX. There are different ways to install your Python, and remember, you will need an API key if you are using OpenAI. If you are using a different one, maybe you have a Gemini account or Grok. In that case, okay, you have to adapt the code to use that, but I'm sure they have libraries for Python. So a step-by-step implementation, it just install Python, install the package OpenAI, define your facts. In our case, it will be 3: store hours, contact, and return items. Frame the agent, it's the most important one, meaning create a good system prompt, and then calling the OpenAI with our query, and just do a loop to continue to ask questions to the user. That will be our project. So first thing, import, if you already installed the package, have a key on the code, then define the facts. It's not necessary for the prompt. The prompt will contain this text there, but I think it's a good way for you to structure. Maybe this can be in a database. In our case, it just be a dictionary saying the subject about store hours. You can see this is a key. This is a dictionary in Python, and this will be the text that should be replied to the user. If the LLM, the text is a return policy, it should reply with this one. Okay, if it's something about contact, it should reply with this one. Again, these facts can be, for instance, a table on a database, a service that you have. It's not something that it's meaning that this variable not be used with OpenAI. I will show you right now. So this is the system prompt. This is the framing of our AI agent. And if you read it, you can see that we are saying explicitly something like, you are a helpful chatbot for a retail store. You can only answer based on the following points. And you can see here that you have store hours, meaning that you are saying to the chatbot or LLM, saying, okay, if the subject is store hours, reply with this. Okay, if it's return policy, reply with this one, and if it's contact support, reply with this one. That's why you created it. I just put in a different variable here because the text should be here, and it will be because of this statement in Python, to make sure that you understand that you can add more here, and you can put here, you can even create a table saying with just these words in one column and this answer in a different color, and then you generate this string here to make sure that your agent can, for different subjects, have different answers. This example is only 3, but be free to add other ones here. Okay, and that's it. So as surprised as you can get, this is the only thing that you need. Of course, now we need to make the call. So I create this method, so it will receive a user query, which is the user's text. And then you can see here, you just call the OpenAI chat completion. Okay, in my example in GitHub that you can download, you will see a different line here. Even if you continue on this video, my example, I will provide a code walkthrough before executing. This code you'll see I'm using different. But this is the previous version, and there is now a more recent version. I wanted to provide both of them, so you understand that they are the same thing. So this is a legacy version, but you probably will see it in a lot of examples, but my GitHub version uses a different. The structure, it's the same. It's not everything is done differently, but you will see here not chat completion, but a different approach. But the parameters are almost the same. So don't expect different, meaning that follow these slides, the structure, the behavior, the reasoning behind it's the same. It's almost the same, but the API change a little bit here, the calls. And at the end of the video, you will see the difference. So here you can choose the model. And here you have to provide these two messages. This one says, okay, system, meaning it's the prompt, some that you wrote here. I just abbreviated here, but remember, it is this text that you'll be saying. So this will be the prompt and this will be the user query. So the ChatGPT or the OpenAI understand that's one thing, it's the prompt, the system one, it's the framing, it's the constraint, it's the scope, it's the limitation that they are putting to the LLM. And the other thing, it's what the user is asking. So the LLM will check what we are asking. It will use this full capability to understand what do you really want, but considering what you wrote here. You will understand that it will try to interpret the question of the user, take into consideration that you are a retail store. This is a frequently asked questions, and it should fit one of the store hours, return policy, or contact support. It's like as if you do a question, say, okay, this question of the user, it's a store hours, it's talking about store hours, return policy, or contact support. And usually ChatGPT will answer to you, okay, this subject, I would say that it's store hours. So now that you understand it's store hours, reply with this message that we are seeing here. That's what we are doing with these two. So here we provide the context and the reasoning for the LLM to use, and here we provide what the user is being said. And remember, here it's text, but in a real scenario, it can be voice, it can be a file, it can be in any language, and so on and so on. And then we do this call, and we go to the response. We choose the first response because it's accurate, and we get the content. Okay, usually you will see something, and I will show you ahead when I will be doing the code walkthrough, an attribute called temperature. And temperature usually means the creativity that you want to give to the in our case to the agent AI, but to the LLM, yes. Okay, that's a kind of how much space are you giving and creativity behavior to the LLM. Yes, I didn't put it here, but it will be on that example, but it will be probably 0 because our answers are already predefined. Okay. Now we just need this while true, user input, ask a question or type exit to quit. So the Python will wait for you to ask the question, it will receive, and of course, it will call our method answer query. So with the user input, and it will be executing this every time you do enter until you write it. So this is the full implementation of this agent. And if you look or you think for a while, you can see it's a very nice one, and you can play in a very lot different scenarios. Probably if it's the first time that you are seeing, you didn't expect to be so easy to create a very simple agent with a very useful functionality. So if you are a more visual person, this is just a diagram if you want to pause. Just to remember the steps that we've done. So we import OpenAI, we set the API key, we define the facts, we compose the system prompt. That's the setup. And then this is just the cycle for the code if you want to implement in your, maybe in a different language if you want. Okay, so if you are more an architect view, and I'm enterprise architect, I always like to provide an architect view. So you have the user, you have your Python script, which is the agent that will receive the information. Okay, now you have your facts, as I tried to put in a dictionary called facts, but it can be a JSON, can be a dictionary, can be a file, can be a database. You can just read it, but use it to create your prompt. Okay, and now since you build your prompt here, you do your request to the OpenAI API, it will give you the answer, and you provide, of course, the answer to the user, or maybe it's not to the user. Maybe you can send an email to someone. Maybe it's about pizza delivery and so on and so on. Okay, maybe pizza delivery can be a good project for a future video. So you can buy and request or order a pizza using an agent, AI agent. Okay, so then you can test the chatbot. What are your hours? And you expect to see this. Can I return something? And you should understand that you're talking about returns. How do I contact support? And you understand that there is this email and this number. What's the weather? Sorry, I can only answer about store hours, return policy, or contact support. This should be only the 4 possible answers for you to see, because if you remember on the prompt, we force this behavior here. Okay, you can only answer based on the following facts. Okay, this way you assure that your enterprise image, let's say marketing, are assured and protected. Okay, for some creativity from the LLMs. Okay, so the outcome, the agent responds accurately. Thanks for agent framing. It will be the prompt. Okay, you can try to copy paste the code, but you can always go to the GitHub that I provided together with this video. So common issues that appear when you are developing for the first time, maybe in other times, but when it's the first, it's quite common. So the API key error, verify your key in the OpenAI dashboard. I had a key, but my credit was 0, so I didn't, it was not possible to call. If it's, I think if it's the first time that you'll be using or open account on OpenAI, I think they can give you a few credits just for a few calls. I think you can try. Rate limits. Remember that usually the rates are based on tokens. If you start to create big prompts, there will be a lot of tokens and the money can go quite fast. But if you read the price, you can see that you have a lot of space and you can do a lot of requests, even with just $5. Off-topic response, tighten the system response. Okay, be careful. That's why we wrote respond exactly with the fact text, no additions. Remember that if you don't provide this kind of message, you can only answer, respond exactly, something like that. The agent can reply with the answer that comes from the LLMS, and they already saw how can they respond. Maybe they can propose another company or something like that, so be careful with that. Okay. Business value, I think you can get a lot of business value with this simple example like this one. You can automate common questions, enhance your customer experience with instance, accurate answers. You know what will happen with your answers, scalable to more questions that you can add to the facts. So what you learn here, even from the business point of view, you understand how you can develop a very simple AI agent. It's a great start. Okay, Python, if you didn't know Python, you have the opportunity to use Python, OpenAI API, and agent framing fundamentals. I will create other videos just talking about prompts. It can be quite complex, but you can improve a lot your agents with a great prompts if you understand how do they work behind the scenes. And of course, how to apply these are practical skills for real world AI applications. So next steps that you can do, add more facts to the dictionary, integrate with a web application, for instance, and explore advanced agents, something that I will promise will do in my future videos. So thank you for watching this. Next, I will provide you a code walkthrough. So let's see the final code in Python. I've added a few changes, but nothing to the main logic, just some logging. And of course, you can find this code on my GitHub, and you should find that on the description of this video, or maybe on the posts of my channel. So in Python, it's very similar to what we discussed previously. So of course, you have the imports. The most important one is this one, OpenAI to call the ChatGPT. In this case, this is just logging. It's always a good practice in the code. So remember, you should have an API key on export. Don't write it on the code. Put it as an environment variable so no one sees it. You do the export if you are in a Linux environment, and then no one will see your OpenAPI key. So, but of course, it's mandatory to be there. Otherwise, you cannot connect to the ChatGPT. Now, the first thing you do is just to create a client to the OpenAI, and you should provide the API key. Behind the scenes, this OpenAI will do everything that's necessary. Then you need the system prompt like this. This is just a dictionary that will be integrated here. It's nothing that you should have for because of the agent. It's just let's say an easy way to develop in a programming language. So this will represent our 3 possible answers. One, it's about store hours, and we should answer with this message. The other one is about return policy, and should answer with this message explicitly. And of course, if you need contact, this should be the answer. So we expect 3 answers and one more that we'll see in a moment in the prompt. So the first thing that we have to define, it's the prompt. Remember that you'll be connecting to an agent that contains billions of information, and you don't want the person that's using your chat, or maybe you're using this API to reply to emails or other source of information, to ask whatever they want and receive. So they will have a kind of a free access to a ChatGPT. So you want to frame the answer in our case to these three answers. So you need to build a system prompt that explains very explicitly to the agent what is the purpose of this chat. So you say you are a helpful frequently asked question chatbot for a retail store. You give some context so he understands the language that someone can write to you. And even if he has to, if there was the possibility, which is not the case, at least at this time in this example, to provide some answers, to have a kind of a context, a real context to the words that should be used on the answer. So you can only answer based on the following facts. So this is the most strict way to say to the chat, please, when you decide the user is talking about store hours, use this answer, which is this one. Okay. If it's about return policy, just answer with this text, don't put your text. And the contact support, of course, use this one. And if the query doesn't match any one of these three, just reply with, sorry, I can only answer about store hours, return policy, or contact support. If you want to be a kind of a perfectionist, maybe you can use something like this and put here as a key, so you have all the possible answers here, including the one that it's not an answer from the business point of view, but it's an answer, the polite answer to someone that asks a question that the chat doesn't understand. So the system prompt, it's the most important thing. Now it's just the call, the answer query, just the call to the OpenAPI. It's quite simple. And you can see here that it's different in the more, let's say, the recent version of the OpenAI requires that to use this kind of way. It's not chat completion, but it's client chat completions in a different way to create. It's very similar, but the structure differs a little bit, and the way you do the calls it's different also. So I provided both. If you look into my presentation, I provide the oldest way to do it, and this is the more recent one. So if you look into the internet and try to understand some code, you can find both depending on the date of the example. So in this case, we are using this model. Temperature 0 means that we are not allowing for any creativity on the side of the ChatGPT. Usually you have values here between 0 and 2. If you are on the values, let's say 0.3, 0.5, you can have some creativity, but still accurate. But if these values, they go to 1, sometimes it's too creative. Maybe it can give you answers that are not even about retail. And if it's 2, it's just erratic. So it depends how much creativity do you want on the answers. So in our case, we will be using 0. In my future videos and examples, I will increment a little bit to give more space to the agent to be creative on the answers. So it will feel more natural if you want. But of course, be careful about how you write the system prompt, because at the end of the day, it will be a combination of your system prompt with the temperature that you provide. And then you have to provide two types of information, which is the system information, which is of course the system prompt, which is the framing, meaning what is the scope or the boundaries of the chat to answer you. Okay, and of course the user query, what the user is asking the message. Okay, so this method will receive a user query, and then under this context will send the message to the chat, and then you get the response. Since we are only hoping to receive one answer, and it's one of these 4, we go to the choice, we'll choose the first one here, 0, and then we get the message and the content. There are other information that we will explore in future videos, and we'll be logging to make sure that the code is working. And now it's common stuff. It is just a Python application, a prompt one. We have a while true, so we'll be asking questions to the chat. You can ask as many as you want. And when the user writes exit, it just stops. Otherwise, you'll continue to ask questions, so you can have a conversation. But it will be a very limited one because you only can receive one of these 4 replies. What is great about this example is you can change the system prompt. You can put other replies here. You can enrich this example, and maybe you can create something that you can use even in production. Imagine that this query, the question that the user is sending you, it's not being right on the prompt, but you are receiving it, for instance, from an email or any other source on your solution, depending on where you want to apply this. So remember, at the end of the day, the only important thing here is this one, and it doesn't care the source of the user query, only cares about what is the system prompt, how much the creativity do you want, and you receive the answer. So you can adapt this code to what best suits you, and I think you can do much more with this code and increment, and I think it's a great start for you to make it better and make it a real production environment. So let's see next this agent being executed. So let's see our agent in action. So start the Python with the agent, ask a question. So let's talk about return. So when can I return my items? Okay. And when I send this, he said, okay, returns are accepted within 30 days with a receipt. Items must be in original condition. We develop a very straight and very precise answer, probably with a more open prompt and something that is called temperature. We could wide open and have different answers, but that will be for future lessons. But it replied what we want. So we asked about returns. He understood my English and he said, okay, we accept returns, and they are accepted with 30 days. So at which time, okay, I will write it wrongly, at which time I can go to the store. And now it says we are open from 9 to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. So he understood that I want to go to the store. He understood it's about open hours. So he gave me this answer. And you can see how useful are these kind of shots, because of course, companies, they have websites and things like that with pages people can consult, or they can just go to a place, or maybe send you a message, or maybe send you an email. And you can have an agent on the other side that understands what is being asked and replies accordingly. And one of the advantages for you to strict the answer, to make it very precise, is that you can maintain the image of your company. You don't want the agent to reply whatever he wants. And I saw some websites that sometimes are not well designed using this, and they open too much the agent, and people start to ask things about weather, and incredibly the agent answers to that, which is quite crazy. So this is what I want to show you, this agent working. I hope it was useful for you, and I hope to see you on my next video.